1 p.m. Eastern or wherever you're in. So just usual, put it into the chat. One word that describes how you're feeling one now. Ugh. One word that describes how you're feeling right now. One word that describes how you're feeling right now. To the chat. Excited? I'm excited too. Excited. I'm excited too. I know I use AI a lot, but Tori's, it's I was like, there's no comparison. I'm bringing in the real expert here. This
I
is not Samantha territory. This is Tori territory.
know. I mean, everybody can be an expert. That's the wonderful thing about
I
it.
know, it's amazing, right? Excited. Woohoo. Love that. Amazing. It's funny. I was thinking this morning how, for those of you who've been coming regularly, it's just, I wish I could have you all over for my house, like to my house on a Saturday morning and have Dory here and have coffee and croissants and stuff. Because it's just been so great getting to know so many people and seeing you all every day. Okay, so let's kick things off. So welcome back, everyone. Looks like I've seen most of you before. To any new faces, please put your LinkedIn in the chat and what you do, where you work. Um, and welcome back to this kick-ass group of women. Before we get started on today's topic, I wanted to remind you that the Women's Leadership Challenge is officially open for enrollment for the February cohorts. I had one more spot go yesterday, so I now have 3 spots left in the DC cohort and 4 spots left in the virtual cohort. So it's of interest to you. As I mentioned, this is probably the only cohorts I'm doing this year, and it's only 8 women in each cohort, and then it's done. So reminder, this is for women who are already in leadership roles. If you're looking to navigate a transition, craft your legacy, step into your full potential. Yesterday, woman I talked to is just trying to be intentional about the next stage of her career, and what that means, especially in the last 15 years before she retires, and what does that mean? If you want to negotiate for more money or feel like you're being undercompensated, you want to just learn from amazing other women around you, like Leslie and Tori and Abby and all these unbelievable women who have taken the challenge. I encourage you to book a time with me to chat. No pressure. If it's not a fit, it's not a fit, but it will help me learn more about you and we can figure out what the best route is. I also do executive coaching. So sometimes if the Women's Leadership Challenge is not the right fit for someone right now, from a time perspective or financially or whatever that is, sometimes I'll work with somebody for, 6 sessions in acute format, or we'll do a 360, or like a hiring spree if they're trying to get a new job. So that's also an option if the Women's Leadership Challenge is sounds like too much for you. But to learn about claiming a seat inside one of the cohorts, schedule a call with me, and I'll put my link in the chat. And I also just want to, recognize women who have come from far and wide. Ruth, I'm going to talk a little slower today. So thank you, Ruth, for coming. Ruth, you're going to have to listen to Leslie yesterday. She talked a little bit about her work with Haiti. You two should definitely connect. Okay. So without further ado, let's get started into our topic. So Tori, who I'm about to bring in, Tori was the very first person to ever sign up for the Women's Leadership Challenge. And that's when it was a hope and a dream, and I didn't really know if it was going to work, and I had no idea what results women were going to get. And Tori came to a class I led on feminist leadership, and she said, "Sign me up, I'm in. I want to interact with women outside of technology. I want a playbook to lead by that's not, the typical masculine Sheryl Sandberg, Zuckerberg playbook." And she was my very first student. She was you were in Leslie's cohort, right? Or no, Leslie was in cohort A, you were in cohort B, Tori.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time. And Tori has been unbelievably generous over time. She ended up being a sponsor, her company, for the Women's Leadership Challenge. And she was also in my mastermind groups. So after the Women's Leadership Challenge, you have the option to continue on in a mastermind, which is pure group coaching. And Tori was in the mastermind for about a year. Uh, and we've worked together on, some proposals to work together on instructional design and leadership programs for different companies. So she is a colleague, partner, friend, coachy, awesome, like badass feminist leader. Uh, and
Well,
now
thank
here's
you.
and now here's her formal bio. And she always has. Uh, She's the founder and president of Trillium Creative Solutions, a consulting firm dedicated to empowering purpose-driven organizations through strategic training, change management, and innovative problem solving. With 25 years in the L&D industry, Tori has a wealth of experience in designing and implementing transformative learning initiatives across industries. She's known for adaptability, creativity, and commitment to building safe, inclusive workplaces. And I have, um, I really, as I think about feminist leadership, Tori has taught me a lot of just what it means to lead and how much she is so incredibly thoughtful about her employees, in creating space for a neurodiverse workplace, in, making decisions that are empathetic while also, protecting herself and her business, and just really caring deeply about people. And I really think the world needs more leaders like Tori, and feel privileged to have been her coach and leadership trainer. She's also an advocate for using AI to enhance efficiency, create hope in uncertain times, and embrace failure as a stepping stone success, or what I say, failing fabulously. So, Tori, Mike is yours.
Well, and in the spirit of this, what I'm going to be talking about, ChatGPT wrote that for me. The only thing I did was change the pronouns because it was using they pronouns, and I use she, her pronouns. But I'd say I changed probably about 5 words in that entire write-up, because my relationship with ChatGPT is such that it knows me in ways that's a little scary, but also helps me quite a bit. So thank you, Sam, for such an amazing introduction. And just to give a straight up plug for the Women's Leadership Challenge, it was such a great experience for me and really helping me to step into my own power as a leader. I feel like for a lot of my professional career, I saw myself in a supporting capacity to other people's to help enable other people's dreams, and really kind of looking at it head on and embracing the label of feminist and a feminist leader was a really, really critical part to my current year's goal, which is to embrace my main character energy, and
That
make
main
sure that
character,
I'm
fabulous. I
um,
love
yep. That's 2025 is going to be all about me being the main character of my own life. So and the Women's Leadership Challenge was just such a critical part of that, and just some amazing relationships and amazing learnings, and just a perspective that has really helped me to be the kind of leader that I am really proud of being. So if you haven't signed up for that, you should definitely check it out because it's well worth it. Okay, so with that, I am going to jump into my little presentation that I've got. And I don't use Zoom a lot, so I need to make sure I keep all of your faces close to me. Okay, there we go. All right, so Sam's already done my intro. The big thing I want to talk about right now is why me and why this topic. So I want to talk about AI because I am at my core an educator. I've got a lot of experience teaching people, and I also love staying on top of new technologies and new trends and basically what people are using and making sure that if there's opportunities for me or my team to be more efficient, then I want to take that, and not because I want to make money, but because I want people to spend less time working, and I want them to spend more time doing all of the other things that work is supposed to enable in your life by giving you a paycheck. So that's really why I want you all to know how to use these tools, because I want you to have more time to spend with your families, on your hobbies, on the things that bring you joy. And so if there's tools that you can use to do that, why not? And one of the other reasons why I think it's important in the context of this audience is, and Sam knows this from like when we first started talking about ChatGPT, I saw a concerning trend, which was all of the voices talking about it were all male voices, and women seemed a little bit less inclined to leverage AI because there was a learning curve or something new there. And that leaves us at a competitive disadvantage that I want to make sure that doesn't happen. I want to make sure that we are maintaining our advantage, because I firmly believe that AI is not going to take your job, but somebody who knows how to use AI and is therefore more efficient or more productive, hate capitalism, will be able to take that job. So let's close that gap and make sure that you have and are using all of the tools at your disposal, so that you are competitive, so you are accomplishing what you want, getting to spend time doing the things that you want to spend time doing with. So um, the um, and you guys are seeing my screen, okay, right? You can see my agenda and all of that. Just making sure. Okay. Um, so the things I want to talk about are the benefits and uses of AI, a perspective for how to think about AI. I want to run through some of the AI tools, give you a couple of examples, and then get you to use it, get you to do it yourself. Whether it's, we can do something collaboratively, you can each go off and do it on your own, but I want you to get your hands in it if you don't already. So my first thing that I want is a question. I just talked about what I wanted to talk about in the session. I know, Leslie, you're excited about that I'm going to be here. So what do you want to get out of this? What is it that you were hoping to get out of the session? And please drop that in the chat so I can see. Oh, I see you, Ruth. The become, which is to encourage women to robotize. Yeah, yeah. I can definitely understand your perspective there. Learn more about something more than just Chat GPT, how to better leverage AI. Where do I go after Chat GPT? Okay, perfect. All right. So, and just keep those coming, please. I want to just drop in here just some definitions just to level set some of the terms that you may hear when it comes to conversations around AI, because there's AI, large language models, generative AI, prompt engineering, things of that nature. Some of the big ones I want to talk about are generative AI. This is artificial intelligence that creates new content, text, images, videos. These are things like ChatGPT, BERT, Claude. Large language models are models that are trained on a lot of information and to understand and generate human-like language. So um, one way to one way to think about it is, generative AI is that broader category that includes large language models, but it's also other things. All large language models fall under generative AI, but not all generative AI are large language models, basically. Um, so just some common terms that you will hear. Prompt engineering is basically making sure that you're using the language that gets what you want out of these tools. One other thing I want to bring up is the concept of a singularity, which is the idea that at a certain point AI is going to surpass our own intelligence, and some estimates for when that is going to happen have changed recently, and they're estimating anywhere from 2027 to 2060 that singularity may occur. But this is a hypothetical thing, but it's something I like to kind of maybe keeps me up at night a little bit. Is the idea that it's going to get a little smarter than us. Um, but first, let's talk about some of the benefits and the uses of generative AI. So it's a tool to help you save time, improve productivity, reduce stress. It can help, can do things like handle repetitive tasks, brainstorm ideas, enhance decision making. I like to think of it a lot in terms of creating content, and excuse my language, but I am all about using it to create a lot of shitty first drafts, right? So that first pass at something to help you get started, I find it extremely useful, and that's how I use it on pretty much a daily basis. I also use it to analyze a lot of data. I use it to help me with some decision making, to create proposals. There's just so many different uses for generative AI. So, keeping going with the chat, for those of you who are using AI right now, if you could drop in the chat, how are you currently using, if at all, generative AI? And I'm going to use this as a moment to kind of look through what you guys are talking about in the chat.
Tori, while everyone does that, I just wanted to say some of the ways that I've used AI, at least in coaching, which has been a little bit different, is utilizing it. I have a class now in the Women's Leadership Challenge called AI and Career Planning, where I'm able to take your personality profiles, the amount of money you want to make, your resume, past things, and be able to match you to organizations and jobs, titles that suit your personality style, what you want in life, your salary, your industry. It's amazing. So that's one of the ways I am using it in coaching, which has been really interesting. and also to help people write their LinkedIn bios, resumes, cover letters. I wish I had this for cover letters a million years ago. It is like such
Yeah.
a
Oh,
time
yeah.
saver. So I think it has a lot of coaching relevance too that I've used a lot in my coaching sessions.
Yeah, and I want to respond, Katie and Patty, you both brought up the balance between like efficiency and environmental impacts. And this is something that concerns me as well. And actually my I probably should admit this in something being recorded. My sister and I got into a bit of an argument about it the other day. Because I think that I know that everything we do leaves a footprint. I mean, just running a Google search has an environmental impact, right? The use of tools like search, AI, pretty much anything in the cloud, there is an impact both to water consumption and power consumption. And the fact of the matter is that very often the larger impacts are felt in countries, communities that are already disadvantaged in some way, shape, or form, which is why data centers are there. They're taking advantage of, developing, how macroeconomics defines developing countries by taking advantage of those resources. So I hear you, and I totally understand, and I know that it is definitely something that we should all be aware of. One of the things that I've been trying personally to be very conscious of is the conscious consumption of tools. Not saying that we won't ever use them because of the environmental impact, or at least for myself personally, I will continue to use them. But how I use them, I try to be very conscious of that so that I do what I can to minimize my own footprint and minimize my own consumption of those things. And I think that, it is up to each individual to really think about what that impact is and what that means to you and how you want to approach the use of it. I also want to call out that there is a framework where corporations continue to push the guilt of consumption to individuals, where the impact that we have is significantly less than the corporations. So yes, we do have an impact on this, and there are also things that we can do to address the larger impact that happens at a corporate level as well. But I do think it is important to be conscious of the consumption and of the carbon footprint of AI. So I'm glad that you called those out because it is something that I'm also passionate about and concerned about as well. Just looking through some of the. And I use it also, hi Ann, for lots of videos and scripts. I know Ann and I are like, she's all about Claude, I'm all about ChatGPT. So I might get you to share a little bit when we get there. Awesome. All right. So perspective of AI. There is a great podcast out there that's from Tim Creasy, who is the Chief Innovation Officer at ProSci. It's a podcast that he did with the Innovation Junkies probably about close to a year ago now, where he says generative AI is your intern, not your oracle. And I think that that is a fabulous way of thinking about all of the generative AI tools. Where I see challenges is where people expect AI, where they expect ChatGPT to be their advisor, to be their oracle. And I think it's really important to think of it in that context of an intern or an admin. It is a tool that you control, not the other way around. If you're interested, I can share that podcast. He goes into a lot more detail, and he's also got a great blog post where he talks about it as well, how he does his prompt engineering and so forth around that. Here's my short version of it, or my interpretation of it. Whenever you use a tool, and whatever that tool is, whether it's ChatGPT or Claude or BERT or any number of the large language models that are out there, it's important to, just like you would with an intern, tell them what it is that you need them to know about. I mean, the great thing about large language models is they have a huge data set. That is also presents a particular challenge. So when you're using it, it's really important to tell it what data set you want it
Yeah.
to look at. Specify a knowledge base. For example, I'm working on a change management project, so I will start off my prompt saying, you are a ProSci
So,
certified change management expert.
so
That
me,
tells it
capacity.
what part of the library to go grab information from is the way that Tim Creasy talks about it. Then you want to specify what that
You can't
intern's
say that,
role is.
but
What do you want them to do? Like you want them to like specify the kinds of actions you want them to have or take. Um, you want to provide any source materials, upload, copy, paste. There's a variety of ways that you can get more information in, but provide any source materials that you have. Describe what your desired output is. It's a pitch deck, it's an email, it's an article, it's an outline, it's an image. And then ask your intern if it has any questions for you before it goes forward and starts to do that task. And so if we're talking about conscious consumption, this is one way to do it, right? Or these tasks are one way to make sure that you're doing less back and forth. So you're burning less energy, you're using fewer bottles of water if you do less back and forth with the tool. Ask it if it has any questions that it needs answered before it gets started. Then answer those questions and get it to give you your results. And then from there, you'll want to refine the output. Whether you refine that output as a back and forth conversation with the tool, or if you were to take it out and then, you know, make your own edits on your own. So that's basically the broad approach that I use anytime I use AI, period. Is think about what I want it to do. And I really, for me, it really helps for me to think of this as my intern or my admin. Because if I were going to go to a human and say, hey, I need you to do this thing for me, I want to make sure that they're going to be successful. I want to make sure that they don't have to come back and ask me a bunch of individual questions. So I want to I want to do a little bit of my own prep work to make sure that I'm providing the right level of information so that I can get out what I need to get out with less back and forth. Um, but not a pause. So any thoughts, questions, comments about that, especially for those of you that are already using it? Like, does this resonate? Do you have anything to add to it?
So Tori, like I'm just thinking, would this be like an example? Like if you were to say, like you are a change management expert in an impact investing company in New York, can you make a pitch deck for my startup to present about our sustainable energy initiative? Do you have any questions before you begin? Is that
Absolutely. Perfect. Yeah.
okay?
And one of the things that's a little creepy, but also really helpful, is that if you have a Chat GPT account, and I assume it's the same with Claude and so forth, that it starts to get to know you pretty well. Like I could go to Chat GPT right now and say, create a pitch deck for me for a nonprofit. And it will, because of all the conversations that I've had, it will be able to just generate it. And if we're interested, I can do a little demo because I also partner this with a tool called Pandoc. I don't know if anybody has used Pandoc, but it's an app you can install where you can basically get ChatGPT to provide the content in a markdown language that you can use Pandoc to convert into that file format. So basically, I can ask ChatGPT a question, give it to me in Markdown language, throw it in Pandoc, it will create a PowerPoint for me. And then all I need to do is apply the theme, the template to the PowerPoint, and I've already got a draft.
What is marked language?
Markdown language.
That
So it's basically like an abbreviated, almost looks a little bit like HTML. It's basically a code language called Markdown language.
And then the other thing is, what is it? PAND. How do you
Here,
spell it?
would anybody like to see an example?
Yes.
Let's just do that. Okay. So,
No, I'm excited
um,
to learn today, not teach.
yeah. All right. So, I know Sam had a great example, but does anybody else have something that you're dying to get done, like a pitch deck or something like that that we can use as an example? Because if you do, I'd say go ahead and paste it in here. If not, I can just do a quick pitch deck for my own company. here, I'll do. Oh, now I'm cheating a little bit because, like I said, ChatGPT knows me so well already that I didn't have to really tell it what to do. Um, and so you notice how the response here is kind of, it looks a little codey, but it spells out all of the different slides and so forth. And when it's done, I'm going to tell it, give me the code to get Pandoc to create a. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to copy all of this code, and I'm going to, so I basically have a folder where all of this, where Pandoc is going to look. No, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to do a new document. And I'm going to call this pitch. And ChatGPT will give you all of the instructions on how to do all of this too. So you can ask it how to do all of it. So basically what I'm doing is dropping all of that code into what is essentially a text file in this folder. I'm going to open up my command prompt. Sorry, I've got multiple screens, so my command prompt is coming up on a different screen. And I'm going to tell it to go look in that folder. And now I'm going to go back to ChatGPT, and here it gave me the code. Okay, here we go. Here is the code that I want to tell it to create. I don't want it. I want it in PowerPoint. Here we go. So I'm going to copy the code where this is basically the instructions I'll put in the command prompt to tell it to create a presentation for me called presentation PPTX. So I just copy that code. I'm going to drop it here. I called my markdown file pitch. So I'm just going to change that. And then I hit enter, and now I'm going to go back to this folder, and there is now a presentation here, which I will open up. And where are you? Oh. And here's the presentation. I'm just going to quickly just apply a theme to it. And now I have my pitch deck.
So Tori, are you sharing your screen?
Yeah. Oh, you can't see my screen? Oh.
Can you guys see your screen? Maybe it's my.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, I was on a different thing.
You can see the not the PowerPoint, but the
Right now I see your presentation, but I was able to see the deck that you just made.
Oh,
okay.
I don't see the deck. Oh, now
How
I
about
can see.
now? Okay.
Now I can see.
Did you see that you were able to see the ChatGPT work
Did
as well?
you guys see the ChatGPT?
Yes.
Okay. And of course, you'll want to, what I skipped over is any back and forth conversations that I might have wanted to have before it gets in the PowerPoint, just because I wanted to get it into PowerPoint quickly. But you can see how you can then, if you've got an existing theme that you wanted to apply, you could use that, but it creates that slide deck for you. And I've used this as a starting point for proposals, for, pitch decks like this. So yeah. Now you see the deck. Okay, cool. Questions about that? Thoughts? I can send over some instructions when we're done on how to do that, but that is one example of how you can use it. What I wanted to call out are are all of the tools that are out there. And I know, oh yeah, Leslie, please.
Yeah, it would be great if you can send those instructions because this is
Yeah.
really useful. Because I actually use Copilot, but this looks like more comprehensive.
Yeah, I like, well, I mean, there are so many different tools out there. I tend to use ChatGPT a lot because I've got kind of a long-standing relationship with it and it knows me pretty well. If you do use any of these tools a lot, um, if you ever ask it a question about if ask the question sometime about what it sees as your opportunities for improvement professionally, and the responses, what it learns about you based on your interaction with it, is a little creepy and also very helpful. Katie, to answer your question, I just chose one of the default templates that came from PowerPoint. Like, ideally, if I were going to do this, I were going to apply my own branded template to that, but I just picked one. Um, but to be perfectly honest, Katie, all of the instructions for how to do it, you can ask ChatGPT as well. I mean, I'll send kind of the short, the short list of instructions, but really what it boils down to is like you would ask your tool of choice, doesn't have to be ChatGPT, to create that. The big thing is the markdown language, installing Pandoc and getting the code to get Pandoc to spit it out. I've had it create Excel spreadsheets for me, Word documents, PowerPoints. Pretty much it can create PDFs. Pretty much any Office app that you use, Pandoc can take the output and just automatically generate that file. So you have less kind of back and forth copying and pasting. It's just about cutting down the number of steps for you.
Okay, and just one.
Um,
Oh,
yeah,
so one quick question, because what I've seen now, a lot of employers are doing, especially the organizations where they give you written tests and what have you, and I certainly understand that. And they say you're not allowed to use, AI, and that
yeah,
they will be able to detect it if you use AI. So so I do agree that AI really can't take over your job. It's
yeah.
just that they will hire those that know how to use it.
Yeah, and I think where I honestly see a lot of people get caught is because they are thinking of it as the oracle, not the intern, right? They're just taking what comes out of the generative AI tool and just using it without actually putting any of their own thought or work into that end product. And that would be just like getting an intern to do your work and then passing it off as your own without actually bringing your experience, your perspective into the equation. Because there is a lot that Chat GPT or Claude or Bert, there's a lot that those generative AI tools can do for you, but they can't replace you. I mean, your experience is a unique differentiator. And I think that, um, when it comes to organizations that are saying you can't use the tool, I mean, that's, you know, I, I guess they have a right to do that. I definitely have encouraged my team to use generative AI because I want them to be able to increase their efficiency. I mean, it just makes more sense in terms of the efficient running of an organization if you let people use all of the tools that are available. I'm not going to ask people to ride a horse to work if they've got a car, right? I'm not going to ask them to light their homes with a candle if they've got electricity. Why would you take this valuable efficiency tool away? I really don't understand why organizations do that.
Oh, this is just in the
Um,
like the interview for like the
oh yeah,
recruitment process. Yeah,
yeah.
not yeah.
I mean, how would they know if you
No,
didn't
no,
go
but they
back and
said that
edit
they
it?
can. That's another thing. They said, oh yes, they'll be able to tell that if you use AI, your application will be eliminated. You'll be
I mean,
disqualified.
uh, all of these generative AI tools have a certain voice, right? And if you take a copy paste of it, then I'm sure they can tell that it wasn't you that wrote it. I mean, it uses 25-cent words when a 5-cent word would do, right? I mean, you need to make sure that it has your own language in your voice. But I mean, they are going to be able to tell if you just copy and paste. But I don't recommend that you do that. I recommend that you bring yourself to this and use this as a way to get started, but it's not the end result. And that's where that whole intern versus Oracle perspective, I think, is a really key one. Um, okay, so let's talk a little bit about some of the tools that we have. Oh, nope, that's my favorites. That's what I wanted to show you first. So there are, and you guys can see my list of generative AI tools, making sure it's still sharing right. Yes.
No, we're still seeing the PowerPoint
Gosh,
presentation that you developed.
me
Or yeah.
and this, me and Zoom, we're not great friends yet. I'm working on it. Okay, how about now?
Yes, you're good.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I use Teams and Google a lot these days. So okay, so there are a bunch of generative AI tools out there. There are more and more of them every single day. It can be quite challenging to stay on top of it. I say don't even try to kill yourself doing that, right? Periodically ask your favorite tool what new tools are out there. Um, use it as an intern. In terms of, so I broke these out into some different categories because I figured you were all from different industries and so forth. So text generation, ChatGPT, Jasper, Copyright, Sonic, Pseudo-Write. There's other ones out there too, like there's Claude, there's BERT, things like that. For image generation, Dolly. All of the images in my slide deck I used Dolly within ChatGPT to generate those. Midjourney is one of my personal favorites. Um, Voiceover generation for anybody who's creating any kind of videos or scripting. 11 Labs is awesome. Wellsat is also really good. Poly, I've had some great experience with. For video generation, there's a number of tools out there. Synthesia, Pictory, Runway. You can generate music. You can generate design. Knowledge management. One of my favorite new tools is in that list right there, Notebook LM. I've got an example of that I want to show you too. There's tools to generate code, to do data analysis and look for insights for business applications. There are a whole boatload of different tools out there. My current favorites right now are these. These are the ones that I use weekly, if not daily. ChatGPT, Midjourney, 11 Labs, Synthesia, and Notebook LM and Notion are the ones that are my current favorites and the ones that I depend on a regular basis. Notebook LM, a relatively new tool. It dropped probably about 2 or 3 months ago or so. I think everybody's going to love this one and hate it all at the same time. And I have a love-hate relationship with all of the AI tools, right? It's not that I think that they're all a panacea. But I don't know if any of you have actually attempted to read Project 2025, right? How many pages is that document? It's quite a few. Wouldn't it be handy if there were a tool that you could just upload the entire shebang into and then ask it questions and get it to generate maybe a little podcast that gives you a highlight on the topics that you were interested in? If anybody answers, yes, that would be handy to that, let me introduce you to my friend Notebook LM. Notebook LM lets you upload source content, and that could either be from PDFs, it could be websites, it could be videos. You can add a variety of different sources to this. So you can point to Google Drives to load things. You can just dump um, text content in there. You could point to website links and so forth. And then you can have it generate a podcast for you. Does it? Thanks, Anne. So Anna's saying that Claude does the same thing. This will generate a podcast. I was able to tell it to create the podcast, focus on when I created it, I think I said something along the lines of focus on the topics that impact changes to executive power, the elimination of existing government departments, and impacts to women's reproductive health. And I asked it to create a podcast. So it created a 13-minute podcast for me. But my favorite part about this is it automatically creates a chat bot. So you can just ask it a question. So who has a question about Project 2025? I would love to add that in here and let you see what the response is. Please drop it in the chat.
I already depressed them on day one with a lot of Project 2025 forecasts.
What's that?
I already depressed everyone on day one with 25 forecasts.
So does anybody have a question for it?
Reproductive.
Katie, can you clarify that question a little bit? Like what, do you have like a specific question about that?
Sure. So I would be quite curious to learn more about reproductive rights healthcare, such as what does Project 2025 say about advancing or retracting women's abilities to get access to mammograms and things like that? I honestly don't know if it says anything about mammograms. I don't know if men think about that.
And you guys can see Project 2025 right now, or you can see the notebook LM.
Yep.
Okay. So there's the question. It's going to take it a minute because this is a honking big document, as we all know. And so here's the response. So it does not explicitly advocate for retracting women's ability to get mammograms, but it does give you a breakdown of relevant points. So, and then the numbers that it's pointing to are links to where this is in Project 2025. So if you are like, I'm looking for something that's more, so maternal and child health. So prioritize attention, including, okay, so let's say we wanted to learn more about this. You could either see the highlight, or if you click on the link, it will bring you shortly to where it actually, and I apologize, it's a little slow for me today. But it'll point to the exact section in the document where you could read more information. And Anne, I'm going to put you on the spot because Anne sent me a message and I want her to share what you were just sharing with me about Claude and what it does, if that's okay.
Sure. Can
I'm
you
only
hear me?
picking on Anne because I know her.
No, that's fine. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. And apologies, I am not camera ready because it is before noon on a Saturday where I am. So I'm going to stay, I'm going to stay behind the scenes. But yeah, Claude was actually really helpful for me with a project that I recently had, and it was to essentially take some documentation that another agency had created for a client and reconceptualize that content. And I think, anytime you take somebody else's work, it's really, really hard to do that. So what I was able to do was to put these different documents, PowerPoints, Word documents, into Claude and have it pull out from each of those documents what was what was really relevant for this change management approach. And it was extremely helpful. It helped me clarify all of the new roles and really get down to the points that the client was looking for originally, but didn't get. So that was how I did that. And that's how I learned that I could put multiple documents into Claude and have it like scan across all of them and come up with a solid conclusion. So it was fun.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I love that data analysis piece, or that content analysis piece, is a huge time saver. In the vein of similar but different, working on a project with one of our clients, it's a change project, and we spent several days going through and identifying the success measures for the change, for all aspects of the change, whether that was software, behavior, business processes, across about a dozen different roles. And I ended up with about 600 unique identifiers of how they will know this project is successful. And from there, I needed to build a change management plan, and I needed to build a learning strategy for addressing that. And I took all of those things, fed it into an AI tool, and was able to generate learning objectives. I was able to generate outlines, come up with different ideas for like the videos that I wanted to create. But just the ability to feed in all of this information and say, show me themes, give me patterns. And it takes out some of the bias that we have when it comes to looking at those things. It strips that out and it's looking at it in a less biased way. But that also, has its own inherent problems because there's so many nuances to things that you pick up on as a human, but still having AI be able to do that heavy lifting and then be able to come back and say, actually, this is more important than these other items because there were all of the nuances to the conversation that AI just wasn't a part of, right? But the ability to do that kind of analysis is I mean, I use it for survey data, for focus group data. Like there's so many different ways um, that it can really help to look through just chunks of information. And Anne, thank you so much for sharing that. Um, And I know we're getting close to time. So what I wanted to just sort of list off are just a few other ways that you can use this. One of the things that I really treat generative AI like my admin. There's an app for your phone for ChatGPT where I literally have conversations with it. Like when I'm driving in my car, because that's where all my good ideas happen, is when I'm out for a walk or driving in my car. Thank you, default mode network. I just kind of word vomit at it and use it literally for those of you who know what a dictaphone is. I use it like a dictaphone. Um, I use it to remind me of Excel formulas because I have forgotten more than I will ever remember when it comes to that. I use it to get me started with like task lists and to-dos and how to move forward. I use it to jumpstart projects, whether that's creating a visual diagram of something or organizing a to-do list. I use it to create all of my first drafts at this point, whether it's emails, LinkedIn articles, proposals, case studies, you know, it, it's so many things that I just kind of feed it in information and say, give me a first draft, and then either go back and forth or just take it out and work on it myself. Like for me, getting started is the hardest part. Sometimes I get really stuck in that kind of analysis paralysis. That's not the same for everybody, right? Like I know people who use it kind of the opposite way around. They know exactly what they want to do, but they can't generate all the content. So they'll tell Claude or ChatGPT kind of, here, go do these things for me. And kind of get that bulk of legwork done. So think about how you would use a really bright intern or admin and start thinking about these tools in that context. We already talked about the analyzing and organizing data. It's a great way to parse through things that would take you hours or days to do. I've used it from an instructional design perspective because that's really my space. So those are some of my biggest examples. I know we wanted to talk about some of the different tools. I got just, this is a silly screenshot, but um, one of the most recent examples I have is we used a tool called Synthesia for one of our clients. We were building out a code of conduct course, and it was a really dry code of conduct course. And we wanted to take it out of just being like, this is what you should do, to actually creating some stories and showing a dialogue of where people are doing things that it doesn't really align to the organization's code of conduct. So we used for us ChatGPT to say, here's kind of like the guidelines, create some scenarios that violate those guidelines. So we used that to script it all out. And then we used a tool called Synthesia to actually show, and what you can't see in the screenshot on the left-hand side is that each of those avatars spoke to those scripts. So you could see the conversation that was happening between those two. And the scripts were AI, the avatars were AI, the voice was AI, and it cut down my development timeline for something that would have taken a month to produce, literally took a week to produce this content. So it lets us do more, with less. I used the ChatGPT voice app for a recent LinkedIn article that I did. I literally was driving in my car and I was like, I want to do an article that talks about these things and I want to organize it this way. And I just brain dumped at it and said, give me an outline, create my shitty first draft for that article, which I then edited. And those are just like, the two most top of mind. Of course, there's also Notebook LM, which we looked at. So last question here is, what is something you want to ask your new intern to do? And I either want you to bring up ChatGPT, or I will bring up ChatGPT and paste it in here, or maybe it's Notebook LM that you want to do. I could show you Synthesia. I know we only have a couple minutes. And Leslie, I also will keep talking about this forever and a day. Yes, Sam, the ChatGPT voice app is the same as ChatGPT. So here, and I can actually show you, I made sure to have an example handy. So don't laugh at this. I flew home yesterday from a week working at with my client, and I was like, it would be really cool to write an alternative history story, like a fiction story, that was really based around the idea, like what had happened if every time a colonizer tried to invade, they were rebuffed. What would our countries, what would the planet look like if that had happened? So I started with just, I'm talking at it on the car on the way home. This is not conscious consumption. I was not a very responsible user of AI as I did this, but are there any theories about what the Americas would be like if colonization never happened? And you can see just my conversation with it here, right? Um, Not that I'm going to write this book, but it was just an idea that occurred to me. So, but this is kind of what it looks like. So like I had the conversation on my app on my phone, and then as soon as I came back to ChatGPT, please do not look too much at my list of topics over here. It's almost embarrassing. It's like looking in my underwear drawer at all the things I use ChatGPT for. But you can see like that it pops up as an item in your list after you do it. So it's connected to your account. It's just a different way of getting to it.
Well, I didn't know that you could use that.
Yeah.
Sorry, why don't I just in case anyone
Yeah.
has to one, just like formally
Yes.
close us out, and then we can keep going for people that want to stay, if that's okay.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, since I know that there's more stuff that we could do. So for those of you who want to stay a couple extra minutes, please, by all means, feel free to stay. If not, thank you, Tori. You're amazing. And this is so interesting. I'm like over here looking at Descript and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And, reminder, if you want to learn from other amazing women like Tori, these are the type of women who take the Women's Leadership Challenge. As I've shown, it's such a diverse, broad group of women who are from tech, finance, humanitarian aid, development, democracy building. It's just there's so many incredible women, and feminist leadership is really about knowing that I don't have the answers and that you all learn from one another. Like I mentioned, you start with an in-depth 360 where we go through all your strengths, your weaknesses. We create an action plan for you. Then we dive into the class, which is partially coaching and partially curriculum, from deconstructing your past and the patriarchy so that you can release shame, guilt, imposter syndrome, anything that's holding you back. Learn strategies to advance in the current world, whether it's getting a raise or a promotion or building your own damn table, which is also Tori's phrase. Identifying your intrinsic power map so you stop seeking external validation and really have a firm understanding of your leadership style. Feminist leadership principles so that you can learn the true north of feminist leadership and apply those principles to create a better world. And then strategies to foster change from people that have really been there. And you get live coaching from me, a mission and vision session from Leslie Zafran, a finding your purpose session. That's the journey. As I mentioned, it's $1,000 a month. Or if you pay in full during the Feminist Leadership Formula by next Wednesday, I'm taking off $3,000. So it's $9,000 total. And as I mentioned too, I'm an expert at helping women find ways to reimburse, whether it's through their workplace and or to negotiate in their next salary raise so that the class pays for itself and then some. So if that sounds like something that's interesting to you, please book a call with me and I'll share how you can join this incredible community of global women who are making change together. Tori, I'm just wondering, do you have any advice for women who have been thinking about the Women's Leadership Challenge through this whole thing, but might be feeling trepidation? What would you say to them?
I think that, I mean, for me, like the readings, they take time, but it's all an investment, right? I think that it is definitely worth the investment in time and money, just based on the things that you will learn about yourself, the things that you will learn from others, the community that you will create. And I mean, we are all used to making choices and prioritizing how we spend our time. It doesn't last forever. It is the commitment is worth the ROI is there. So I would say if you can prioritize the time, do it. You won't regret it.
Thanks, Tori. All right, on that note, if you have to drop, please feel free to drop. Tomorrow's class is a feminist leadership roundtable with Ivka Collis, who has an asset management fund with a focus on gender lens investing. Garima Gupta, who's an executive coach, and she was the former head of human resources at World Central Kitchen. So she's got a lot of resources and tools and advice when it comes to HR. And Leslie is going to be joining us again, and so that you can actually ask her questions this time since we sped through yesterday. So tomorrow, in terms of a roundtable, it's going to be me asking some questions, but it's really up to you all to ask questions. If you have any questions that you would like to pose to to people in advance, either shoot me an email, post it in the Facebook group. But if there's anything that you're curious about, or anything you would like coaching or advice on, whether it's, Ivka building her own damn table and having this asset management fund, Garima as an executive coach and head of HR, and Leslie as somebody in, democracy, gender integration. If there's questions that you have, I'll put my name in the email, or my email in the chat so that you can email me. And again, if you're interested in the Women's Leadership Challenge, just book time on my calendar and we can discuss. All right. And with that, I will bring it back to Tory.
Awesome. So I'm trying to answer some of the questions as we go. Sheba, I'll add you to the notebook LM. Beth, I just asked which tools. I just asked ChatGPT which tools to clean up data. So it looks like there's a few: Open Refine, Trifacta, Talend, Data Ladder. It looks like there's a few. Microsoft Power Query.
I'll do the same thing and
Yeah.
come up with those same options, hopefully. And yeah, because our data it's not good. It's
Yeah.
not good. It's ugly.
And one thing and this, honestly, it's not an area that I've worked in, so I'm sorry that I'm I don't have the answer, but I will say, like, don't be afraid to use multiple tools, kind of like the example that I did with Pandoc. It's like you might have one tool that kind of gets you part of the way, and then there could be something else that helps you to transform that into what you need it to be. Because, sometimes it's not all one tool, right?
Right.
So yeah, sorry, I don't have a
Awesome.
better answer for you than that.
No, that's a fantastic answer. Thank you.
Yeah. And then is Sheba still here? Yes. Okay. You were asking about Synthesia, which is one that I really like. So basically, there you can get a lot with just a free account. So I recommend just checking out here's the link to it. Just checking out Synthesia. And so we have so many in here because we translated into like 14 languages as well. So I'm trying to see if I can show you an example that's not too, well, I guess it doesn't really matter what language it's in at this point. So basically, let me go back and edit it. You have the option to start with a number of different templates. You can start with a blank canvas. You can, like, I'm going to go with this sleek corporate template. Once you have the video created, come on, go a little faster. And you can start like literally with a blank slide. You can bring in your own PowerPoint backgrounds and things like that. You can swap out your avatar, and you can choose from like a whole list of different looking avatars that you've got. Some of the avatars have a little icon next to them. These avatars with the little purple icon have much more realistic facial expressions, so they just look more real. And then you plug in your script, and then you can also change the voice. You can change who's speaking, you can change their tone of voice, you can change their language. There are all of these different options. And well, of course, the one I picked doesn't give me more options, but you can choose kind of different inflections, like, are they excited? Is it natural? Are they sad? Are they angry? So you have all of these options for how you want them to sound. You can add in new avatars. You can add text on screen, and you just have a veritable plethora of options. It is my internet connection seems to be a little bit slow today, but that kind of gives you just a very quick view of it. But It's pretty, the whole user interface is pretty intuitive. You can put people side by side. You can't quite get them talking to each other. There's some other tools. I can't remember the name of it right now, but I can dig up the name of it where you can actually show conversations. There's about 3 or 4 different tools in the marketplace right like this right now. I liked Synthesia specifically because I felt like the voices were a lot more natural sounding, as was the facial animation. You can also upload your own avatar. So you can take pictures of yourself and have yourself become an avatar that's used in this. So it's your voice, your face, that can be used for this. Do you have any particular questions about that one?
That was great. Thank you so much for sharing
Yeah,
that.
of course. And then I think the next question was Sonia. Are you still, did Sonia have to drop?
Nope,
Oh,
I'm
there you
here.
are. Okay, so you are working with a nonprofit. You want to talk a little bit about what you were looking at?
Sure. It's really I'm working with a nonprofit that we've developed a strategic plan. We have strategic plan priorities that we do review with the board every quarter, sort of progress against it. But what I wanted to do was create a tool that would make it easier for the staff at the nonprofit to be able
Yeah.
to do that reporting. So sort of a dashboard that may even connect to the budget, and we have a sort of a strategic financial plan that aligns with those initiatives.
Yeah, so I think this would probably be a situation where multiple tools would likely be necessary. And I don't, off the top of my head, know of any dashboard generating tools like that are AI driven, though that would be a question that I would literally just ask like my favorite generative
Yeah.
AI, my intern, like what are the actual dashboard creation tools? But in terms of like the data analysis and manipulation, like you could, if you have like those kind of raw sets of data, information on each of those initiatives, you've got that in spreadsheet form and text form, whatever it is, you could load that into something like ChatGPT and get it to generate a table that you
Mhm.
could then use to feed into that dashboard view, right?
Great. Yeah.
Because you could say, analyze this, create a table that has these columns, identify, and specify what each of the columns are. Like one of those columns might be um, a green, yellow, red,
Yeah.
whatever your kind of category is, and then have it spit that table out. Use Pandoc to bring that into Excel or Google
Mhm.
Sheets or whatever however you're going to store that data, and then append that to whatever tool you're using to serve up the dashboard. So you could have it do that sort of initial rough analysis. I would always say go back and double check it, right?
Yeah.
Make
Yeah.
sure that it's right. But you can get ChatGPT, and I assume, and yell at me if I'm wrong, Claude, to spit out a table of data for me that I can then use someplace else.
Yeah.
I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, no, very, very helpful. And I think it'll just be sort of interesting to play with this. I think
Yeah.
it'll maybe be a good exercise to see how it would work putting this together. Because normally I would just sort of brute force
Yeah.
through putting something together.
I will be perfectly honest, and I know I keep coming back to this, but this idea that AI is an intern, is like
Yeah.
for me, that was kind of a pivotal moment because I thought about like, okay, if I'm going to delegate this to somebody, how am I going to ask them to do it?
Yeah.
Right. And so like just thinking of it from that perspective made me go, and that's why why I use the voice a lot, because it's a lot easier for me to say, okay, I need you to create a table that explains X, Y, Z. The priorities on these items. I need to make sure that this column contains this kind of data. It's really important to do this for these reasons. This is going to be something that I want to show to a C-level executive. So the language needs to be tailored at that level of messaging. This is going to feed into a dashboard. So create a table that uses this raw data and analyzes it based on these things. Do you have any questions for me before you get started?
Yeah. I think that's great. I agree. Like that perspective of it being an intern is because you're right. That's what I would have done with an intern, right?
Right?
have them do all of that. So
Yeah.
that's fantastic. So thank you. This was really, really
Yeah.
helpful.
And if you do want to work through any of that, I mean, happy to, I think I put my contact information in there, happy to, jump on a call and kind of help you workshop through it if you find yourself stuck. But I
Thank
also encourage you to just figure out, find the tool that feels the most comfortable and help it get you unstuck. Because I mean, the
Yeah,
number of times I've gone to ChatGPT and said, I need to do these things today and I can't get started, give me a nudge,
that's
you
great.
know? Yeah, it's, I mean, and I am at war with myself when I do that sometimes because I think of the ecological impact that my inability to get started happens. But then I also think, you know what? Like I gotta be out there and competing as a business owner. So,
Right.
I'm going to do this because I know that I need to, like, there's things that I need to do in order to make sure that my company stays successful. Because if I keep my company in business, then I am able to create a space for people to work that's better than if they went to Amazon or Google or worked at any of those organizations. So I'll
Right.
take the hit, and there are things that I can do, I think, on the flip side to kind of make up for my ecological impact there. But I think that there is a benefit to being successful so that I can continue to create the space for others that
Yeah.
wouldn't be there because I do have something that I offer that's unique as a company. So I'm willing to accept the accountability for that cost because there is a greater good that I'm trying to work towards. Um, but that's just me and my
No, that
rationale for.
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, Tori, I think maybe on that, why don't we close things out?
Yeah.
But I want to thank you so much for coming, for being amazing. This was fascinating. I mean, it's just incredible all of the things that you could do with AI, and especially from a leadership perspective, just I think from a freeing up our time and enabling us to build our own damn tables and do more. It's, and like you said, to have a competitive advantage in the marketplace that people need to understand how to use it because it's going to make them less desirable in the marketplace if there's no awareness of it. And I think it also signifies too, from a hiring perspective, that someone has a growth mindset or not. If they've been able to, they have the courage to kind of dive in and try to figure some of this stuff out. So I want to thank you so much for joining us and for being amazing. And for everybody here for asking great questions. Again, if you have questions tomorrow for the Feminist Leader Roundtable, please email me or put it in the Facebook group. And hopefully I will see everyone tomorrow. Have a great
Thanks,
week.
everybody.
Bye.
All right, bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.